I would now like to invite Mr. Sriharsha Narasimhan, Chief Technology Officer, Aruba, an HPE company, to deliver his presentation on Reimagined Workplace.
Thank you for joining us in the Reimagined Workplace discussion. And when we look at today's requirement, with the pandemic and return to work, and then bringing in the safety and also focusing on the contactless environment and ensuring that the technology works fine, this is going to be a huge shift from the earlier discussions that we had on experience edge towards an autonomous workplace. My name is Sriharsha. I'm the CTO with Aruba in India, and I'm going to walk you through what solutions and then how to leverage technology to create this autonomous workplace that will help us in creating a safe environment for the current requirements and also pave way to future automation in our workplaces that will help us in streamlining some of these activities that we have been doing, also bringing in action. In the past, we have talked about experience edge, and this is where the intelligence of the network or using network as a sensor and leveraging the intelligence to create the experiences comes into play, be it workplaces, be it retail organizations, stores, or factories, stadiums, healthcare entities, education institutions, everywhere. Okay, this becomes a key requirement. And this is where we work towards leveraging technology and integrating a set of technologies that seamlessly communicate with each other and know if there is any issue with the communication that's happening amongst these technologies, because that's what we need to arrest in order to make sure that everything that we set up for return to work or safely returning to work is going to function and meet the expectations as well as experiences that the end users who are coming back to office are anticipating. So let's look at how we leverage network for creating this environment. This is where the access point, the wireless access point from Aruba comes into play. And the new access point, which we have released about 2 years back, okay, has Wi-Fi 6. This is Wi-Fi 6 certified. It also supports Wi-Fi 5 and the older generations. There is integrated radio for Bluetooth 5 and Zigbee. And this is what makes this access point unique, because now I can use the same network, same radio for onboarding multiple devices, IoT devices, sensors, and bring in the network itself as a sensor. So using this mechanism, we are now able to start looking at heat maps or the movement of people, places where they cluster, and start analyzing that data so that it becomes easy for us to analyze and bring the new norm that's essential for getting back to work safely into our normal work routines. Because this is where we need to start looking at how do I take this physical data, which is related to people movement in terms of how they work. And a good example of this is if I have a factory wherein I have the stores environment, then I want to be able to make sure that the material movement is not going to bring people in contact. As you look at the different workplaces that or different functions that you have within your workplace, you're going to see different patterns emerging that we need to be reviewing, okay, to bring in the social distancing as well as the safety norm. There are a lot of insights that are generated by the Aruba contact tracing solution. And then these insights will bring us enough information that we can review, analyze, and deliberate with our employees, because they need to internalize that social distancing should be part of their daily routine. And it's not something that is a clip-on that's there or add-on that's there. And the analytics that we bring to the dashboards is going to help in looking at if any of the places have reached the maximum capacity, or there are situations that have led to breach of social distancing. And then in event one of the employee comes back and says, okay, they are not doing well, okay, can we automatically or can we easily discover all the other people who the employee was in contact with? And this contact definition itself keeps changing. And this is where the flexibility of the solution comes. We just don't stop at that point. Okay, the very next thing that's asked is, okay, where all this employee went, and then how do I ensure that we have sanitized those areas, and then we are not shutting down the whole office. This is where the heat map and the historical movement details for the employee is going to help. We can replay the movement and then figure out which all areas the employee visited within the work environment, and make sure that the cleaning crew and the staff that we have are not overburdened in sanitizing the whole office, but sanitizing the essential spaces so that we are safe to work. But for this to work, we need a very, very seamless network, because everything that happens is all connected and there's lots of data that's generated. If we look at the perspective from data perspective, then the analysis that's done by Morgan Stanley comes into picture. Okay, over a period of time, they have looked at all the data sources, and then they are seeing that the amount of data that's going to be coming from the edge as we move forward is going to be much higher, okay, in magnitude than what we have seen in the past. The trigger for this is going to be the IoT devices, and this is where the sensors that we deploy on the human beings in office, or the objects which are there, also have a play from a contact tracing perspective. But more than that, okay, the IoT devices, and then the augmented reality, virtual reality, automations that we look at, they all need seamless exchange of data. As Gartner states, there's going to be about 55% of data that's going to be generated outside of the data center, okay, and or the cloud, which means it's going to be happening at the edge. The edge is defined as the place where the people, things, and spaces connect and converge. And this is the data that needs to be processed at the right time, because the aging of data has got repercussions in terms of how useful the data itself is. The other aspect that we see is when we look at the IDC report, which also states that by 2022, there's going to be about 55 billion devices that are going to be coming onto the network. This will translate into about 79 or 80 zettabytes of data. That's huge. And for the volume of data that's generated, we need to make sure that the network itself is efficient in order to carry this and handle this data and move it efficiently to the target areas that the data has to go to. And at the same time, all the devices, when we look at the 55 billion devices, they need to be onboarded and managed in a very, very secure manner. And this is something that calls for a new set of insights that need to be there on the network, and new set of approaches in terms of how we design the network, how we onboard the devices, and then what we do in order to leverage the IoT or the data that's there at the edge, okay, to create the experiences that's required. When we look back on our traditional network, this is where we start seeing the challenges. If you look at what we have today, the wired, wireless, and WAN are managed independently or separately, and there's no convergence amongst them. And the fragmented architecture that's there, okay, be it campus or branch, and today with most of the employees working or accessing the office resources from home as well, okay, this is where the challenge starts, because we see different set of metrics, different set of tools which are there to look at the campus, the branch, the data center, and the home offices which are there. And we need to see how to break these silos so that they don't come in the way of our technology transformation, and also hinder the agility that's essential. The next aspect that's there, okay, is visibility on the network and the automation aspect that's there on the network. So unless we know what devices are there and how they are connecting, so when we look back into this problem from the pandemic perspective, I need to know who all are my employees who are connecting from home, and then are they on the corporate network or are they doing something else, okay, on the internet? Are they able to access all the resources? And this calls for a lot of automation. And if there's any issue that gets reported, especially with the number of people being less in my IT staff, okay, being there on site, it becomes even more a challenge for me to address all the issues that may come up. And since I'm bringing in employees who are going to be there, okay, with some expectations that they'll be able to complete their work, this becomes a challenge. So automation is something that's key, and all the statistics that we have seen shows that there's very little automation that's there today. And then the manual changes that are happening and manual troubleshooting that's being done takes a long time for us to do something, and then it's also error prone because the human fatigue is going to have a play. Now, the other aspect that's there is security. When we look at the IoT devices, I'll need to make sure that the IoT devices are onboarded seamlessly because they don't have any security built in. And this is one other area where we need to focus on and make sure that there are no challenges. Now, finally, how do we fund or how do we build this infrastructure and make sure that I'm not spending too much of money on this? Okay, this is where the funding model or the solution as a service or network as a service comes into play, and the financial models that we have, okay, as HPE through HPEFS and GreenLake come into picture. Now, moving forward, based on these challenges that we saw, and then based on the requirements which are there on the industry, okay, for the network, we introduced a new architecture called Aruba ESP or Edge Services Platform, which is focused on making sure that the network itself is unified. Okay, you have a unified set of infrastructure which enables you to connect the wired, wireless, and SD-WAN and home networks and a single dashboard, single pane of glass that is used for management, and you have all the information that you need to seamlessly manage this network, including topology, view, and everything. And this is where the Aruba Central solution that we launched helps in having a simplistic unified view. The next part that we spoke about was security. So zero trust security is something that we have built with ClearPath and all the other solutions that we have from Aruba, which enables us to do micro-segmentation and automate the onboarding of devices so that we profile the device, we do a deep profile of the device and discover the capability and then assign a role-based access. So bulk of the manual interventions in segmenting the network is gone. And by virtue of this, we always know what devices are there on the network and also what roles are assigned and what resources they can be accessing. The next part that is going to be there is how do I manage this operation so that I'm able to run this network or manage this network and troubleshoot past any issues that pop up, as well as make sure that the end users don't see issues, okay, and then we are able to resolve the issues even before they are able to see it. This is where the AI Ops capability of Aruba comes into picture, and we are introducing newer features, okay, as part of Aruba Central to troubleshoot the network and also look at some of the transient errors that might be happening, capture the data for your teams to analyze and then resolve those issues. Aruba did not start this journey of AI Ops recently. Our journey for cloudification as well as AI Ops started back in 2014, about 6 years back. And this is where we introduced a product called Client Match, which looked at the problem that we had back then, wherein the wireless was the end devices, the mobile devices were not able to seamlessly connect to the wireless access point. And then the user was not able to get a good experience on the wireless. And they were always coming back and then saying, wireless is not working. So this is where we were able to analyze the actual problem, whether it's DNS, DHCP, or some other area that's preventing the user from connecting, or it's a possibility that, okay, he's connected to a wrong access point. So this is where, okay, the client match software helped our customers in making sure that the wireless experience for the end users was seamless. From there, we brought in additional capabilities by adding the switching fabric and switching capabilities into our AIOps, the cloud and AI-powered management. And then we also acquired two companies, Naira, which was the source for our introspect product or the network security product, and Rasa, which is actually the heart of the AI insights that we have today. And then from there, in 2018, we brought in this capability onto the SD branch. Today's SD-WAN 2.0 as termed by the analysts. And this is where the branches, small offices, and remote offices can connect seamlessly and extend the wired and wireless capability. And today, we are announcing the AIOps. Let's look at each of these areas. When we look at the unified infrastructure, this is where I need one single infrastructure, okay, which is cloud native. Okay, when we define cloud native is where, okay, you'll have all the characteristics of cloud, which is elasticity, modularity, security. These aspects are built into the products so that I'm able to scale and then be able to manage my campus, branch, data center, and the remote offices seamlessly. So if I'm deploying a VPN client on all my endpoint devices, okay, then those endpoint devices need to be visible in my dashboard, and that's what Aruba Central brings into picture. We also need to look at controllerless Wi-Fi from an enterprise perspective, and we released a new series of switches, okay, the 6000 and 8000 series, which enable us to have a single operating system, single operating model, as well as an architecture, all the way from the access tier into the aggregation, into the campus core, and the data center. So this helps in the teams that we deploy, managing this whole infrastructure in a seamless manner, and then not having to relearn or learn different aspects of the switching solutions which get deployed either in data center or at the edge. And on top of it, we have the user experience insight, which enables us to look at the experiences and issues as a user and proactively troubleshoot and fix them. When we look at security, security has been a key role, okay, that we have been incorporating into Aruba solutions. And this is where we brought in ClearPath Device Insight to use machine learning to identify the variants of IoT devices and then bring in the role-based access or role-based policy so that I can use dynamic segmentation and give unified roles, okay, or seamlessly bifurcate and micro-segment the devices into their specific roles and make sure that they have access to only the resources that they need to be using. And this brings in a better security posture for the network as well and the endpoint devices, which may not have any built-in security. We spoke about AIOps, and AIOps is all about how do I resolve issues that are reactive in nature, which means issues which are reported by my users. So I want to be able to quickly analyze and troubleshoot these issues. And this is where the AIOps models come into picture and give me enough information, okay, to isolate the area of issue and then resolve that. We don't stop at that. The next part that's there is, okay, we want to be able to predict and preempt the issues from happening. So let's say you have a situation where, okay, the user is experiencing challenges with connectivity. We should be able to analyze what this issue is and look at the various elements which are there and help the IT team in troubleshooting and be able to predict, saying that, okay, we see this issue because of this particular configuration. Can and give recommendations to the IT team so that they can fix these configurations before they impact the end users. And this is where we seamlessly do this for wired, wireless, and WAN networks. And from there, okay, we need to be continuously monitoring the network so that we can make sure the SLAs that you set are met and the end user experiences are not compromised. For doing this AI insights, it's not that okay, we started on day one. We have leveraged our domain expertise to bring in the data science leadership, okay, by bringing in the different models and then different patented technologies. We also source the information from all the customers' data that's there, and then it's more of the telemetric information that we source. It's not the end customer data, and then use that for analysis to figure out what is applicable for the specific customer, and then come up with recommendations. Our recommendation models and then our recommendations are very, very accurate. Okay, and then we are able to provide information so that you are able to recover from issues and also improve the performance of network at places to an extent of 30 to 40%. Now, how do we get started with this? Where does your journey start? So the very first thing that needs to be done is deploy a high performance network and then bring in the connectivity that's essential in a secure manner for the users, devices, and things, and be able to scale the operations and management, okay, so that even if I don't have the right set of people in my work because of the current pandemic, I'm able to source all this information and give it to them in the right way so that they can consume and then give the recommendations or maybe remotely fix things so that the network and the complete infrastructure is not compromised. And then from there, okay, we start looking at how do I bring in innovations. For an autonomous workplace, you need technology, and these technologies need to be plugged in to work together. And this is where the Aruba Edge Services platform architecture and the Aruba portfolio of solutions will help in connecting all these solutions together, okay, to help in creating this autonomous or contactless workplace so that I can bring in my employees safely and get them to work together. Okay, thank you very much for joining us and have a nice day. Stay safe, stay connected.
Thank you, Mr. Sriharsha, for that wonderful session.